Hello guys and welcome to today's music theory live stream. So as you know, I am Chris. You are either watching live on Facebook, YouTube or Twitch. So welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining, especially on this nice sunny day. Not that we can really go anywhere unless it's our sort of dedicated time to go out and enjoy the sunshine for our exercise. I hope everyone is keeping safe and well, and as it's Easter Saturday today, and it is in fact Easter Sunday tomorrow, it would be remiss of me not to wish everyone a happy Easter. Hopefully we can have a lovely weekend despite these strange times and weird circumstances. So if you haven't joined the stream before, welcome again. I'm Chris. I'm a professional musician specialising in flute performance and teaching, and I'm here to shed some light on a range of subjects, including today's music theory. So let's kick off today's stream. Let's have a quick look over there at the schedule. So for today, we're going to start with the basic premise of transposition, what it is, and some examples of how it can be used, what it's used for. Then we'll look at some more time signatures. We looked at some time signatures last time, and we shall look at some more this time, and the differences between types of time signatures. We will also look at the circle of fifths, but this time for minor keys rather than major keys, which we looked at last time. And then we'll do some more extended intervals. So we did some nice easy intervals last time, and we'll do some slightly more tricky ones, or some different ones, or even some iconic ones this time around. And then we'll wrap up. So we're going to kick off with this wonderful page here, which is a giveaway page. Yes, there will be some giveaways. Well, there will be one specific giveaway. And that will be music lessons for free with moi. You can either have a lesson online in the next few weeks or months, however long we're stuck in quarantine, if you like, or you can hold that lesson until we can meet in person if you are relatively local and I don't have to travel 3 hours up the road or fly across to a different country to give you this lesson. So let's start. The simple steps, so if you want a flute, piccolo, music theory, or other music lesson, general music lesson with me, follow these steps. So if you follow, as you can see up there, if you follow on Instagram, if you like my page on Facebook, if you follow me on Twitter, if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and or follow me on Twitch. If you're using one of those platforms specifically, please do subscribe to the one that you're watching on, because that will help the respective channel. And then once you've done those steps, just drop me an email and tell me that you've done the steps and that you would like a lesson, because obviously I can see many people will do this, and I can see when I get new likes and new follows, etc, etc, but I won't necessarily know that you've done all of those steps at once and that you actually want a lesson out of this and that you even watch the stream. I do not know who's watching the stream right now unless you type something in the chat below. So like I said in my little post live in 90 seconds, think of any questions and feel free to ask them. If you do have any questions at any point, please do feel free to ask. So let's quickly recap. Follow ChrisDoherty_music on Instagram, ChrisDoherty.musician on Facebook, Chris Flutist on Twitter, 7Flutist YouTube, and a bit further down, Chris Flute on Twitch. Now let's jump straight into our first topic of conversation, which is the basics of transposition. So you might be thinking, what on earth is transposition? So the premise of transposition is that many instruments are, by the nature of how they're made, transposing instruments. This means that when they read music that is written down, and play exactly what is written, it will not sound at the pitch that it has been written down. For example, if you have an instrument that is in the key of B flat and an instrument that is in the key of C, C is the general tuning that we adhere to. So an instrument like the flute, for example, is tuned in the key of C. So every note that the flute sees on a line of music, on a stave, and plays, those notes will sound exactly how they're supposed to be sounding as written. If you're a clarinet and you're in B flat, for example, you are one tone or two semitones lower than instruments in C. So when you play a C, your note sounds two semitones lower than when an instrument in C plays the same note. So a clarinet will play a C, but it will sound like a B flat. So transposition is the term for that technique that is used to convert the notation into the correctly sounding key, if that makes any English, for those transposing instruments. So, for example, let's go to the example of the clarinet. Here are two notes. And you'll look at these two notes and you say, well, one is one note and one is another note. They are two different notes. You are correct. So as written, let's say for argument's sake, the one that's on the left of your screen is played by the flute, and the one on the right side of the screen is played by the clarinet. Now you might think, well, one's playing an A and one's playing a B. Yes. In terms of the notes that they are physically playing, the flute player is using his fingers or her fingers and the air and everything to play an A. The clarinetist is doing the exact same thing to play a B. The difference is that when the notes come out of the instruments, although each instrumentalist is thinking the flute player is playing an A and the clarinet is playing a B, the sound that comes out will be different. So the sound that will come out will be different to the note that they're actually playing in the case of the clarinet, which is why I have written an A and a B and not two A's. If I write two A's, then the clarinet, by definition of being a B flat transposition instrument, will sound two semitones lower than the note that is written. So if I write an A for a flute and an A for the clarinet, we will have sounding pitch, an A on the flute and a G on the clarinet. So to equalize everything, to create equilibrium within the two notes, we find that the flute, because it's in the key of C, can play an A and it sounds like an A. Great. A clarinet, on the other hand, needs to play two semitones or one tone higher than the note that's written because it sounds two semitones or one tone lower. So, to finish up, A on a flute is sounding equal to a clarinet playing a B. And we call this concert pitch. Concert pitch is making it as if everything is in the key of C. So when we write music for an instrument that does not play in the key of C, we have to transpose. So this means that being a flute player, I have possibly one of the easiest jobs because I have to do no transposition whatsoever. All I have to do is read the music that's on the stave and play, and it's good to go. Same as a pianist, same as a harpist, same as any instrument that is in the key of C. So most stringed instruments, violins, violas, cellos, double basses, are all in the key of C. They tune their strings differently, but the sound that comes out is the sound that is written. Instruments like the trumpet, the clarinet, the French horn, etc., are all in different keys. So there are, of course, many instruments that have even greater differences in written and sounding pitch. So, for example, the French horn is actually in the key of F. So F is quite a ways away from C. Oh, I have a present. Thank you, MZ. Present. That's. I wish I did have a present. I mean, I have a present for you, all of you. If you were here at the beginning, there is a giveaway. I will go back to it at some point, but we'll carry on with the explanation of transposition for a moment. So there are, of course, multiple instruments that have vastly different written and sounding pitches. So a French horn is in the key of F, which is quite a few notes away from C, whereas B flat is only 2 semitones away from C. So the clarinet example, we only have to move 2 semitones. The French horn sounds a perfect fifth below a flute, and therefore, if the flute plays an A horn must then play an E to create the concert A. So, recap of transposition. Many instruments have to transpose. By the nature of the shape and size of those instruments, they have to change the notes that they see with regards to how it will then sound. The transposition is then the term for the technique that musicians use to convert notation into the correct key. So, now, if there are any questions on transposition, please do quickly pop them down. I'll give you 30 seconds to pop some questions if you need to. If you think that that's all good and you understand transposition, or if you are a transposing instrument and you think, well, I don't really need to know that, or if you're a flute player like me and you actually are in the key of C and don't really need to learn transposition massively because everything is written how you play. Great. And then I will move on to the next portion, which is time signatures. Okay, so time signatures. We looked at quite a few time signatures last time, but we're going to look at some new ones. Exciting. So, last time we learnt that time signatures look a little bit like fractions. So, they are one number on top of another number. They don't have the little line, the dividing line in between the two numbers, but they do look like fractions in all other respects. And they tell us how many beats there are in every bar, which is indicated by the top number, and what type of notes the bar is made up of, and that is the bottom number. So the top number, because it purely dictates how many beats are in the bar, can be any number you can think of. It could be 843,926. That's a crazy number and no one would ever write that many beats in a bar, but it is theoretically possible to have any number of beats in one bar. It just makes it easier to break the bar into smaller portions so that it's easier to read. If you don't use notation or traditional Western classical music notation, like Indian music, raga for example, they use beat cycles as opposed to bars, and you could have 47 beat cycles. And it's a cycle of beats that last for 47 beats and doesn't have specific bars as we know them. So the top number can be any number you like. The bottom number, however, because of how we subdivide the notes, can only increase by doubling from 2. So we can only have 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so on and so forth. This is because of the way we write our notes. If we remember in the very beginning, we looked at semibreves, minims, crotchets, and quavers. Now they are just the different types of notes, and they also have other names. So they have whole note, half note, quarter note, and eighth notes. So the US and Europe tend to use the quarter note, half note system. The UK uses the crotchet quaver system, but they mean the same thing. So if we remember back to the crotchets, which were the circular notes with the tail that were opaque or completely filled in, they are called quarter notes. And if we think of a time signature, and you think of how to write a fraction that is made up of quarters, the 4 is at the bottom. So we'll take the crotchet to mean 4 on the bottom, which is how the type of note that is used in the bar. And then any number on top, we could say 7, which means 7 over 4, or 7, a number of notes. The number of notes is 7, and the bottom number, the 4, is the type of note, and that means a quarter note, just like a quarter would be written in a fraction. So it basically looks like 7 quarters, which is very strange. You would obviously simplify that to 1 3/4, but in music we do not. So 7 quarters, 7 over 4, or 7 crotchets or quarter notes in every bar. So that's the quick recap. Now we're going to move on to simple versus compound time. What on earth is simple versus compound time? Okay, so simple time is the name given to time signatures that have beats that can be divided into 2s. And that includes 2/4, 4/4, 3/4, and 3/2. Compound time is the name given to time signatures that have beats that can be divided into 3s. So when we look at the simple time, it's all the ones that have the beats in a bar directly able to be divided into 2. So if we think of the bottom number, if we take 3/4 for example, even though there are 3 beats in that bar, the beats are crotchets. And crotchets can be equally divided into 2 quavers. Crotchets are quarter notes, quavers are eighth notes. 2 eighths make 1 quarter, therefore 2 quavers make 1 crotchet. Therefore 3/4 is simple time, because those beats, even though there are 3 of them, they are quarter notes. So they can then be divided equally into eighth notes, therefore simple time. Compound time, as we said, are the ones where the beats can be divided into 3. And now you're thinking, but if we're using crotchets and quavers, they can only be divided by 2, right? To be equal. Yes. However, what we can do is in our compound time, we turn the beats into dotted notes. Now, dotted notes sound exactly, it does exactly what it says on the tin. You have your crotchet, which is the one with the circle, the opaque circle with the stem, and you put a dot to the right hand side of that note, and it adds 50% of the value of the note to the note that's already written. So if you have a crotchet that is worth 1 beat or 2 quavers, add 50% of that is adding another quaver, which makes it 3 quavers in length, but that becomes 1 beat. Then to make your time signature, we add that beat to another one, so then we have 6 quavers or 2 dotted crotchets, but because we can't write our time signature as dotted crotchets, that would be 6, and we can't have a bottom number that isn't divisible by 4. Well, you know what I mean, the doubling. So we need 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, etc, etc, etc. We cannot have 6. So instead, we make it 8, because we know that there are quavers present, and that there are 6 of those quavers. Therefore, 6/8 is compound time. Now that we know simple time versus compound time, let's look at duple, triple, and quadruple time. Now, these are pretty much as easy as they sound. Duple means 2, triple means 3, quadruple means 4. So duple time refers simply to time signatures whose bars can equally be divided into 2 beats. So that means that the top number is divisible by 2, and you beat the bar in 2. So 2/4 or 2/2 is also, they are both duple time signatures, and 6/8 is also duple. The difference is, although the top number is 6, because we realised that it's split into 2 dotted crotchets as opposed to 6 quavers, we get 2 dotted crotchet beats in every bar, therefore it is duple. Triple time is pretty much exactly the same thing, but it refers to time signatures whose bars can be equally divided into 3 beats. So 3/4, 3/2, 3/8, 9/8, anything that we can divide by 3. Now 3/8 is a little bit of a black sheep, because 3/8, although it feels the same as 6/8, you think, well, 6/8 was a dotted crotchet, so surely 3/8 would be 1 in a bar. Yes, it can be, but we can also make it 3 quavers. It's a bit of a black sheep, whereas 9/8, you wouldn't generally count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That would be silly. You'd go 1, 2, 3, but count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is how you would beat it. You would beat it in 3. Again, with 3/4, you've got 3 crotchets. Again, you can only divide that bar into 3. Therefore, that is triple time. And quadruple time, again, very simple. Quadruple time referring to the time signatures that can be equally divided into 4 beats. So 4/4, 4/2, or 12/8. 4/4 because it's 4 crotchets and you would count 1, 2, 3, 4. Same with 4/2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And with 12/8, even though you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all in those 4 beats, you still only beat 4. Because imagine having a really fast 12/8, 1, 2, 3, 4, but trying to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it would be utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. So we simplify it down to be counted in 4. Therefore, it is quadruple. Now, this is what these time signatures look like. So an example of simple time and duple time. Ah, perfect, Maria, thank you. How do you tell the difference between 4/4 and 4/2? Now, this is quite a difficult question because it all depends on the feeling when you play the bar. So when you're actually physically conducting, someone in the audience is not going to be able to know whether you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because minims have 2 crotchets, so there are 8 crotchets per bar or 4 minims per bar, or whether you're going 1, 2, 3, 4 perfect crotchets. So it's a difficult question to answer. The musicians, obviously in the orchestra, in the ensemble, who are playing together, will definitely know the difference because they will have practiced the piece. But from a conducting perspective and from people in the audience, they won't necessarily know. Because it could be a slow 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then people may be playing quavers. So they might be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they're playing a tune in quavers. But then you could say, but isn't that crotchets in 4/2? It's exactly the same. They are basically equal. They're just, they are equal in terms of how many beats and how you conduct them. The only difference is the beat lengths are all either double in the case of 4/2 or halved in the case of 4/4. So it's a bit of a strange question, and a lot of people find that when they play in 4/4 versus 4/2, 4/4 is a time signature we learn very early on, and people understand it. 4/2 gets a bit confusing for people, purely because it's not as often used. So let's now do some examples. So here is 2/4. Now, 2/4, as we remember, means the top number, which is over here. The top number means that there are how many beats in a bar? 2. 2 beats per bar, and as we go down to the bottom, we have what type of beat they are. And because it's a 4, it means quarter notes. Quarter notes are the same as crotchets. So 2/4 means 2 crotchets. And they are simple duple times. It's simple and duple because it can be divided into 2 beats, because when you count 2/4 you go 1, 2, 1, 2. And it's simple. Sorry, it's simple because it can be equally divided into twos, and it's duple because there are 2 beats in the bar. Now, an example of compound duple time would be 6/8. Now, this is because the beats are equally divided into 2 dotted crotchets. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As we said earlier, it's quite difficult to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It can be done. Easy, fine. But it's much easier to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have compound duple time because we're still beating every 2 beats. We're not beating all 6 of the quavers. We're combining 3 of the quavers into each individual dotted crotchet beat, because a crotchet is the same as 2 quavers, and when you add the dot, as we said before, it adds another 50% to the original note. So if the original note's a crotchet, 50% of a crotchet is a quaver, 100% of a crotchet plus 50% of a crotchet makes a dotted crotchet, or 3 quavers. Now, an example of simple triple time would be 3/2. This is because the bars can be equally divided into twos, because they are minims, and they are triple time because there are 3 divisions in each bar. There are 3 minims, hence 3/2, 3 minims. These are all relatively simple to understand. It's just when you do them all in a 1-hour stream, it can be quite difficult to pick up on absolutely everything straight away, but it is a relatively simple rule that can be followed quite easily. So now we'll go on to an example of compound triple. So we had 3/2, and because then the number at the top tells you how many beats there are, and it was 3, that's divisible only by 3. Again, a 9 is divisible only by 3. So we have to be triple because we have to have 3 beats in the bar, and it's compound, again, like with the 6/8, because we can't split it into 2. We can't have an equal number of crotchets, or minims, or semi-breves. We can only have combinations of dotted crotchets or quavers. We remember that when we add a dot to a note, as we've said just a second ago, we add 50% of the value of the note to the original note. Crotchet is 2 quavers, add 1 crotchet makes 3 quavers, or a dotted crotchet when combined together, and 9/8 means 9 quavers, and if there are 3 quavers in each dotted crotchet, we add 3 of those and we get 9 quavers. But we still beat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we still beat in 3. Okay, now let's go to simple quadruple time, and this is the same as 4/2 or 4/4, because again, the top number is divisible by 4, so there are 4 beats in each bar, and the bottom number tells us what type of beats. They are minims. They can also be divided by 4. Well, 2. So there's a pattern here. Simple is when the top number works when it's divided by 2. The top number in compound can only be divided by 3. So a compound time signature has to be divisible by 3. So it has to be a 9, a 12, a 6, something like that. But the caveat for that is it has to still then be beat in 2, or 3, or 4. It doesn't get beat in its original quavers. So 3/8 is still simple time as opposed to compound time. So the 4/2, again, top number, how many notes there are, bottom number, what type of notes, they are all divisible by 2. Everything's divisible by 2, and therefore it can only be simple. It's not divisible by 3, so it can't be compound, and it's quadruple because there are 4 of those beats in every bar and you have to beat each one. And now finally, the compound quadruple is exactly the same. It has to be beat in 4. But because each of those individual beats is made up of notes that can only be divided by 3, it is then compound. So divide 12 by 4, because it's a quadruple time signature, gives you 4 equal beats of dotted crotchets. We can't divide them any further down by 2 or by 4. We have to divide them by 3, because they're 3 quavers in every dotted crotchet. So dotted crotchet, we'll do it again just to make sure. Dotted crotchets are 1 crotchet, which is 2 quavers, plus the other 50%, which is what the dot signifies, which is another quaver, making 3 quavers. Squish them together and we make 1 dotted crotchet. 1 dotted crotchet is 3 quavers, and if we can see that this over here says that there are 12 quavers and there are 3 quavers in each dotted crotchet beat, we need 4 dotted crotchet beats to make 12 quavers. And there we have our compound quadruple time. Now, before we move on to the next section, which is going to be the circle of fifths but with minor keys, I'm going to quickly go back to tell you about the wonderful giveaway that is coming up if you are an avid musician, if you are a flute player, if you are someone who's always wanted to learn an instrument, if you enjoy the music theory streams, the Flute 101 streams, the composition streams, just music in general, you've watched my YouTube videos, whatever, and you really want to learn something about music, whether that's flute, piccolo, music theory, general music, GCSE, A-level, anything like that, I am giving away free lessons. 1 free lesson per person. And all you have to do, everything you have to do is free. You don't have to pay a penny either online or to me for this lesson. All you have to do is, using these lovely little social media links above, just go to @ChrisDoherty_music on Instagram and hit follow. @ChrisDoherty.musician on Facebook, hit like. Twitter, @ChrisFlutist, hit follow. 7Flutist, or just type in Chris Doherty Flutist, I will come up. Make sure you spell it correctly. My name has a C in it. Most people forget the C. We end up with other people who are not me. And they won't be giving you free lessons. So go to YouTube and go to 7Flutist, or Chris Doherty Flutist, whatever you do, or if you've already subscribed, great. And subscribe, and then go down to Twitch, find Chris Flute, and don't worry about subscribing because subscriptions on Twitch are paid, so just go to the follow button instead. So follow, like, follow, subscribe, follow. And if you do all of those things, just drop me then an email and tell me what type of lesson you would like, and we can get you sorted. You're in. So let us now go back to our next section, which is the circle of fifths. Now, last time we did circle of fifths with regards to major keys. Now we're going to do them with regards to minor keys. Now, you might be thinking, oh, God, what are all these hashtags? Don't worry, they're not hashtags. They are sharps. If you would like to call them hashtags, by all means do, but that's not quite right. So, the circle of fifths is a theoretical and compositional device that is used to determine which keys are related to each other or can be effectively moved between from one key to another. We looked at the majors last time, and in this stream we'll take a look at the minors. So I did quite a lot of research to try and find a mnemonic for these, because they're generally quite useful. Last time we had Father Christmas Goes Down and Eats Biscuits, because that tells you the order of the keys and the sharps and the flats and everything in major keys. So Father Christmas Goes Down and Eats Biscuits gives you the order of sharps one way. And if you say it backwards, biscuits eats and down goes Father Christmas, Christmas Father, which doesn't make any sense, so I did change the words around a little bit, but that gives you the order of flats. If you take the first letter from each of those words, so Father F, Christmas C, goes G, down D, and A, eats E, B, biscuits B. And that gives you the sharps, and then say it backwards, and it gives you the flats. That's nice and easy. And that actually remains true for the way in which the sharps and flats go, even in the minor version. So when we go along this way, and we go from A, E, B, F sharp, C sharp, etc., we add the sharps in exactly the same way as we do, we use Father Christmas. That's fine, that stays the same. Then we can go backwards, and when we go this way around, when we go A to D to G to C and so on, we can add the flats in the same way. So as you can see, I've put plus sharps and plus flats. The difference here is that we can't use the same mnemonic that we used last time to get the major keys to get the minor ones. So we have to come up with a different mnemonic. Now I came up with something, it was yesterday, and I had been working on the stream for a while, and I was just thinking, how do I make this make sense? It doesn't make sense, but it's a little bit memorable. So let's try. This is for the sharp keys. All eager beavers follow clever goats determinedly. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but essence A, E, B, F, C, G, D. That gives you the keys. But obviously, as we get further along the circle in terms of flats, sharps even, that way around, we have to add sharps as we go. The reason we do this is as we add the sharps in the key signatures, we have to then, once we have found a key signature that has an F sharp in it, for example, by the time we then get round to F in the sharp section, because we already have an F sharp in the key signatures for E and B minor, the F then needs to be called F sharp minor as opposed to F minor, because F minor is all the way on the other side, on the flat side, and has 4 flats, as opposed to 3 sharps with F sharp minor. So, all eager beavers follow clever goats determinedly. Now that gives you the note name, but obviously as we add sharps with the Father Christmas Goes, we need to make when you add the sharps in the preceding key, we need to check that the sharp of the next key is whether it's apparent or not. So, for example, when we move from A to E, we add a sharp. Now, how do we find the sharp that we add? All we do is we go A to E, and then we go from E up to the next note in the scale, which is using the alphabet. So we go A to E, and then we go up 1 note in the alphabet, which is F. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we go E to F, and we stick a hashtag or a sharp in front of it. And then we have the sharp for that key. That works for the next key round. So we go E, we count up 5, or we go all eager beavers follow, fine, great. We get to B, we think B. What's the next note up from B? A, B, C. We add a sharp, so we retain the F sharp from the E minor, and we add a C sharp. And then we think, okay, cool. Now how do we get to the next one? All eager beavers follow. Okay, so we're now F. Ooh, hang on a minute. We already have an F sharp in the key signature for both E minor and B minor. Therefore, we cannot just have F minor here. We need to use F sharp. Then F sharp, go up 1 note, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and add a sharp in front of it, and we get G sharp. So that is the premise. Now let's try flat keys. We're going to do it the other way around. So it's the same rhyme, but ever so slightly changed. Determined goats cleverly follow beavers everywhere always. It's weird, it's strange, that I could not for the life of me find a pre-existing mnemonic that makes more sense, or makes any sense, or even exists. I had mnemonics from for the major keys, like we looked at last time, and I've had a look at some other music theory resources just to double check, and I can't find anything. Please, if you find something, great, use it if it makes more sense. But determined goats cleverly follow beavers everywhere always. That's the what I'm going to use. But we remember that the order of sharps and flats remains the same in minor keys as the same as major ones. So we don't need to change Father Christmas goes down and eats biscuits, or biscuits eats and down goes Father Christmas Father. That can stay the same, or however I changed it last time. I can't remember what rhyme I actually used. But the sharps and flats remain the same. So let's take Father Christmas Goes, for example. The first letter of each of those gives you the sharp that's required in the key. So we have F sharp for father, C sharp for Christmas, G sharp for goes, D sharp for down, A sharp for and, E sharp for eats, and B sharp for biscuits. Now that is exactly the same order as you add sharps in major keys and minor keys. So we only have to remember that one rhyme for the order in which you add sharps and flats. The difference now with minor keys is we actually have to do one extra thing. So we found A minor is our starting key because it's the one that has no sharps or flats. And that's why we start with all eager beavers. We start with A because it's the one that has no sharps or flats. Then as we go all eager, and we get to E, and then we find the next note up in the alphabet, which is F, and add the sharp. There's one more step that we need to do to create the proper E minor, rather than just an E natural minor, because it's a natural minor at the moment. To make it into what we call a harmonic minor, we need to raise another note, and we need to raise the 7th note in the scale by 1 semitone. So regardless as to whether it's a sharp key or a flat key, we have to raise it. So let's take a sharp key to start with. We've got E minor, we've got an F sharp. All we do is we either count up 7 or back 1, because we know that if you count up 7 in an 8-note scale, or you count down 1 in an 8-note scale, it's going to be the same. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D is note 7, or E, D. If we go back 1 is also note 7. And then all we do is we raise it. Now I'm saying raise as opposed to sharpen, because if you're in a flat key, the note that is note 7 may well be a flat. And if we sharpen a flat, it's effectively doing the same thing as a natural. So we say raise by 1 semitone, which makes it higher by 1 semitone, which means if it's a natural, it becomes a sharp. If it's a flat, it becomes a natural. So we then have D sharp. This also means that for D minor, we also have a sharp, because if we go from A to D, so all determined goats, if we're going to go that way around, all determined goats, we go A to D. D, then we go to the 7th note. I'm going to let you count. D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or obviously if you go back 1 from D, you get to C. A, B, C, D. There we go. And then we sharpen it because it's a natural. It's neither flat nor sharp. It is natural. It's on its own. It's just a C. So we add a sharp and it becomes C sharp. So it basically means that the penultimate note in the scale is 1 semitone, 1 tiny semitone away from the starting note. Now, another method that we looked at last time was the numerical / alphabet version, which I think is possibly, for me, the most easiest to understand. The mnemonics thing I get, obviously, and it was cool as a kid because you got a funny rhyme. Great. But for me, I've got quite a logical brain, and for me, the logical way works better for me. So we'll start with A minor, which is the top one in the middle. And to find the next sharp key, using exactly the same method as we did for the majors, we're going to count forwards through the alphabet 5 letters. A, B, C, D, E, and we get to E minor. Once we've found the key, we simply then go forwards 1 note from E to F and add the sharp, which gives us the key signature. And then we go backwards 1 note from the E to get the 7th note in the scale, add the sharp or the natural to raise the 7th, and in this case, because it's already a D natural, it needs to be sharpened, therefore it becomes D sharp, and we have the raised 7th with the key signature of F sharp. And oh, sorry, I need to all we need to do to find the next flat key instead is count backwards 5 letters through the alphabet. A, G, F, E, D. So we get to D, as we can see with our circular fifths. The next key from A in the flats is D. So we have D minor. Now, once we found the fact that we're in D minor, we simply count backwards now 3 letters. So D, C, B, and put a flat in front rather than a sharp. That gives us the key signature, and then from the go back to the D, go backwards 1 letter rather than 3. Add the sharp or the natural, and because the C is natural already, we need to add a sharp, and that gives us the C sharp, which is the raised 7th, and it's 1 semitone below D. So in essence, in both major and minor keys, the 7th, or the penultimate note in the scale, is always, always, always 1 semitone away from the tonic note, the root note, or the note we start on. So in A, we must have a G sharp because it's 1 semitone away. Let's do another example. Let's now start with E minor, and we'll get to B minor. How do we do that? We count forwards 5 letters. E, F, G, A, B. It's B. Great. Now we count up 1 to get the next note in the key signature. So remember, we retain the F sharp that's in E minor. So we count up 1 note from B, which is C. We add a sharp on top of that, and that gives us C sharp. So we have in B minor, F sharp and C sharp. And then from the B, go back to the B and count down 1 note. B goes to A. And then because A is already natural, we put a sharp in front of it, gives us A sharp, which is the raised 7th. And the same, let's do the next flat key just to reiterate the method. We have D minor, so we now count backwards 5. So D, C, B, A, G. So we know that the next key is G minor. And from G minor, we then count backwards 3 letters. G, F, E. And then we add the flat, so that becomes E flat. So in G minor, we retain the B flat that was in D minor, and we add the E flat. And then we go back to the G, we go down 1 note, which is F, and because F is a natural now, we sharpen it, and we get F sharp. So we know that G minor has a B flat and an E flat in the key signature, and the raised 7th is F sharp. So we've now understood, hopefully, that the 7th is always raised, apart from in one situation, which I haven't gone into because that's another whole ballpark. There are lots of different types of minor scale, and it's difficult to try to put this much information into one stream. So the 2 methods for the circle of fifths for minor keys is either to use all eager beavers follow clever goats determinedly, and that gives you the A to D sharp minor, and then the other way round, all determined goats cleverly follow beavers everywhere, and then obviously you could put always on the end to take you back to A. So that method gives you the notes by the names of the keys by using the first letter of the word. So all eager beavers follow, clever goes determinedly, A, E, B, F, C, G, D. And then we use the Father Christmas goes down and eats biscuits to give us the number which sharp goes next. And then we can do that one backwards. Biscuits eats and down goes Christmas Father, or some other method that uses the same notes to give us the flats. And then to the other method, which is obviously the one that I prefer, which is the numerical / alphabetical version, which is we start always with A minor, and we go up 5 notes to find the next sharp key, or down 5 notes to find the next flat key, and then to find the sharp that is in the key signature of the keys on that side, backwards camera, we go up 1 note and add a sharp, so it gives us F sharp in the case of E minor. And for the flats, we go down 3 notes from the note that is the key. So from D, it goes to B, and we add a flat. So B flat in the key signature. And in both the sharp keys, the sharp keys and the flat keys, we go down 1 note from the key note. So from E, we go down to D, and D, we go down to C. And we add a sharp or a natural, depending on whether the note is flattened or natural in the first place. They are both natural, so we add sharps. That gives us a raised 7th, which is always apparent in a harmonic minor scale. So I will give another couple of minutes break just so people can hopefully digest some of that information. And if there are any questions, please do let me know. And then we shall wrap up, have more questions, and I will tell everybody about the giveaway once more, and then it will be time to end. This is because we were going to go on to intervals, but we've actually spent quite a lot of time and is now 14:53. So what I will do is, because there aren't any questions, we'll quickly have a look at intervals. It will be a very whistle-stop tour, and then we shall wrap it up. So, intervals. Last time we just looked at the normal ones, the majors, the minors, and the perfect intervals. This time we will look at augmented, diminished, and compound intervals. So, the name augmented interval is just attributed to intervals that normally can't be major or minor, so the ones that are perfect, so the fourths and the fifths. We generally learn about 2 types of augmented intervals, the fourth and the fifth. This is a fourth, and this is a fifth. Because remember, as we go up, we count up the line, so C, we go to D, E, F, G. So C, D, E, F, G gives us 5, and then we add a sharp to make it a bigger interval, to augment the interval, or on this one, the augmented fourth, C, D, E, F is a fourth, and we add a sharp to augment the interval to make it bigger. The augmented fourth is 6 semitones away from the starting note, or find the fourth and raise by a semitone, and the fifth is 8 semitones away, or find the fifth and raise it by a semitone. You may notice that in this case we reach G sharp, which is actually the same note, enharmonically speaking, so it sounds the same as A flat, which is actually also a minor 6th, but it's written differently, therefore it has a different name. Now, diminished intervals look like this. So this is a diminished fifth. So these again are attributed to the intervals that cannot be major or minor. They are the perfect ones. And then we augment or diminish to make them larger or smaller. The diminished fifth is 6 semitones away from the starting note, or we count up 5 notes and then flatten it. So C, D, E, F, G, and lower it by 1 semitone or flatten it. And you may notice that this one, we've actually reached G flat, which is actually the same as F sharp here. Enharmonically speaking, they sound the same. G flat sounds the same as F sharp, but they are in fact two different notes when it comes to the intervals. So the final diminished one is a diminished fourth. Now this is 4 semitones away from the start note, or you count up 4 and then reduce it, flatten it by 1 semitone. And again, you'll notice that an F flat is actually, enharmonically speaking, or sounds the same as E natural, which is a major third. So this is why it's quite difficult to use augmented and diminished intervals, because they can sound exactly the same. And now the final one is a compound interval. Now this is a compound minor second. We call it compound simply because it's an interval that spans more than 1 octave. So as we looked up last time, we went all the way from a second, a minor second, all the way up to a major seventh, which all was within the span of 1 octave. This is now outside of 1 octave, because 1 octave would be a C to a C. So the same note, 1 octave apart. This is now a D flat. So if we remember last time, we had a C and a D flat next to each other, which was the Jaws theme, the da-dum, da-dum. And that gives us a minor second. But because we've now taken the minor second and put it up an octave, it's now a compound minor second. So looking at those two notes in isolation, we have a C and D flat. That is a minor second, but because now we've grouped it and moved the gap to bigger than an octave, more than an octave, we state simply that it is a compound minor second. The interval itself doesn't change, we just add compound in front. There we go. Quick lesson on intervals, because it's now 14:57 and it is time to get towards the end of the stream. So let's quickly go back whilst I'm telling you about the giveaway, because some of you will have been here when I've said the giveaway before. So think of some questions. If you have any questions, pop them down in the comments, whether you're on Twitch, YouTube or Facebook. That would be really cool, and I will answer them if I can. But here is the quick giveaway. All that you need to do to get free music lessons. Woo! So if you're interested in getting a free flute, piccolo, music theory or other music lesson, maybe like a school GCSE or A-level music lesson, if you've got anything that you need to ask, all you need to do is, step 1, follow me at chrisdocherty_music on Instagram, like my Facebook page at chrisdocherty.musician, follow me on Twitter at chrisflutist, pardon me, and go to either, don't have to do both, but either subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is 7flutist, or just type in Chris Docherty Flutist and it will come up, as long as you type my name correctly. Some people get it wrong, and it does come up with other people, but it's Docherty. It's been written up there the whole time. Or go to Twitch if you've been watching on Twitch, and just chuck me a follow. Don't worry about subscribing, because subscribing costs you money unless you really, really, really want to. I know it's a difficult time right now for everybody and money, so don't feel the need to subscribe. Subscribe to YouTube, yes, that is free, but subscriptions on Twitch are not. It's just a follow. So follow, like, follow, subscribe, follow. Then you're done. Drop me an email to let me know that you've done it, and also just to say what type of lesson you'd like, whether you'd like to take a lesson soon and have it over Skype, or whether you would like to hold that lesson in reserve until this whole coronavirus COVID-19 has finished, and you would like to have a lesson in person. Of course, you have to be relatively local. I'm not going to drive up to Scotland or fly across to America to teach you. So if you are in some remote locations or locations far away from me, please do go for the Skype lessons, unless you want a hefty bill for my travel. The lesson's free, but the travel is not. So please do follow, like, follow, subscribe, follow, and drop me an email. Tell me what you'd like to learn, and we can get that sorted for you. You're in, and you're good to go. So yeah, now time to wrap up. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched, whether you've been on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. And thank you in advance / retrospectively if you have liked and followed and subscribed to everything. It helps me out so much, and it just gives me the boost I need to get this content done for you. Otherwise, I'm just streaming to myself. It's very boring and nobody watches it, so there's no point in me doing it. So thank you to everyone who has stuck around to the end, everyone who's jumped in and out, and hopefully you found something really useful in this content. So before I go, pop questions down if you have them. If not, great. I will just say, again, thank you so much for joining the stream. Thank you in advance for all your liking, subscribing and following and all that lark. And finally, keep safe, keep well, stay indoors unless absolutely necessary. Take your one prescribed bit of exercise every day, and just make sure that we can help each other, help the NHS to help us stay fit, healthy and alive. We will save lives if we do this. So come and join my stream because it's free. Watch my YouTube videos, they're free. Connect with me on all of my social media because it's all free, and it means you can stay indoors, hopefully have some interesting content, and keep yourself safe and keep everybody else safe. Thank you, MZ. Thank you, Maria, for questions and thanks and things. And I am going to sign off now. Thank you so much again, and I will see you soon. Next week, I think I might take my Easter holiday. I haven't taken any time yet. I've been teaching, streaming, YouTubing, all of that lark. So I might take time off. There may not be some streams next week. However, thank you so much, and I will see you sometime in the future. Have a lovely Easter and stay safe.